Hi, my name is Carly White, and today I will be talking about the different types of assessments in the classroom. I will discuss how they apply to literacy instruction, how they are used in the classroom, the reading specialist's role related to the type of assessment, and the student's response to the assessment. According to the National Council of Teachers of English, reading or literacy assessment is an examination of a student's performance on literacy tasks such as reading fluency, comprehension, written language, etc. Reading or literacy assessments support reading and writing instruction because it helps teachers determine instruction in a way that supports their students' learning. An example of a reading or literacy assessment is iReady, which is a standardized assessment that addresses students' skills in reading. In the classroom, iReady can be used at the beginning of the year to determine students' reading levels and their specific skills in reading. This assessment gives data to support teachers in driving their reading and literacy instruction. Based on reading and literacy assessments, teachers can determine whether students may benefit from reading intervention. If students are below reading grade level based on assessments, they are most likely to benefit from intervention in order to grasp the skills needed to be successful readers. Literacy assessments in the form of exit tickets or writing samples are often used so teachers can determine whether students need remediation in the classroom. Then teachers may reteach a lesson or strategy to make sure students fully understand what is being taught. The reading or literacy specialist may support teachers by helping to administer literacy assessments and present the data gathered. When presenting a literacy assessment to students, they should understand the importance of doing their best work. We as teachers want students to take these assessments seriously, but students often do their best work when they are relaxed and not stressed. A reading or literacy assessment can be done on the computer or one-on-one with a teacher. Since there are many types of literacy assessments, students may interact with these assessments in different ways. Students should also be involved in looking at their results from the assessment. It is important for students to know what area they are strong in and what areas they need more support in. Language assessments are most often used to determine the language skills students possess. I work in an elementary school where most students come from families that speak another language. This often limits their skill in the English language. English speakers of other languages or ESOL teachers often use a language assessment to determine these students' skills. The language assessment students take is the World Class Instructional Design and Assessment, or WIDA. This assessment includes 4 components: reading, speaking, listening, and writing. Students are then categorized into 6 levels, which determine their language skills. Some students may score higher on some components than others, but the data helps the ESOL teacher and classroom teacher determine what they need to focus on with each individual student in literacy. In my school, language assessment is most often used to support small group reading and writing instruction. Interventions can be implemented based on a language assessment if a student is lacking many skills or not making progress. ESOL teachers work to provide interventions and accommodations to those students who need the support. The reading or literacy specialist supports the classroom teacher as well as the ESOL teachers in the classroom. They help with strategies that may support students' needs and can go over assessments and data with the teacher. The reading or literacy specialist is educated in the area of language and can provide many research-based strategies and interventions that will support these students. The components of language are important for all students to understand and be successful in. Since students need to be assessed on each component, a language assessment is usually broken up into parts, which may take days to complete. Different varieties of assessments are also used since language is so broad. For example, some parts of the test require students to complete on the computer, while other parts require students to work with a teacher one-on-one in a setting that is quiet and not full of distractions. As for learning, I believe it to be important for students to be provided with learning opportunities for each of the components of literacy. Diagnostic testing can occur at the beginning or end of instruction. Diagnostic testing, as a form of pre-assessment, helps teachers to determine the areas of strength and the areas of weaknesses of their students. By using this testing, teachers are able to plan to support their students during instruction, which may require modification for some. Teachers can assess students at the end of instruction to determine if the strategies and plans implemented were beneficial for the student. In reading and writing instruction, diagnostic testing can show teachers what each student needs to focus on, and teachers can plan to support them whether in small group or whole group. At my school, we began the benchmark curriculum, which comes with assessments at the beginning and end of each unit. These types of diagnostic testing can help teachers plan for students in a way that supports their learning. It gives teachers a preview of a student's knowledge and skills before they begin teaching. The reading or literacy specialist can implement diagnostic testing in the classroom and provide teachers with tools to use for testing and strategies to implement in instruction to address student strengths and weaknesses. I believe it to be helpful for students to know and understand the importance of diagnostic testing and assessments so it will have positive outcomes. Teachers should also make it a routine so that students are familiar with the process. Diagnostic testing supports not only students who are struggling, but students who have many strengths and need to be challenged. The next type of assessment, called remediation, is often referred to as reteaching. Teachers often use exit tickets and anecdotal notes as a form of assessment throughout a lesson. Based on the data they gather, teachers determine whether remediation is required. Sometimes the whole class needs remediation because they were unable to grasp the topic. In this scenario, teachers need to adjust their teaching on the concept in order for students to learn. However, sometimes it may be a small group of students who do not understand the concept. In this case, teachers do not need to reteach to the whole class, but instead to a small group of students. Remediation can occur in reading and writing instruction if a student does not understand a concept in the way it was presented. For example, a teacher may have presented a lesson on main idea and use a text to find the main idea using key details. At the end of the lesson, students fill out an exit ticket stating what a main idea is, and many students are not able to complete the ticket correctly. The teacher may need to go back the next day or during small group reading and present main idea in a different way, which could involve using a different text. Remediation supports learning because it gives students multiple ways of learning a concept. It also helps teachers determine how students learn best and ways they can support these students regularly in the classroom. The reading or literacy specialist can provide teachers with multiple tools to collect data from remediation and skills and strategies that they can use to implement remediation in their classroom. It is important as a teacher to support students in understanding a concept instead of just giving up and letting them move along without fully understanding. This can lead to poor assessment scores and struggles in reading and writing as students get older and concepts become harder. Students will also feel more appreciated and understood when teachers take the time to reteach a concept in order to help them learn. They can also feel happy and accomplished for understanding a concept or a strategy. Interventions can be a specific program or steps that help struggling students make progress in the classroom. Interventions usually take place after a student is identified as needing support because they are unable to make adequate progress in the classroom. Some students require reading interventions to support their phonics fluency or comprehension skills. When these interventions are implemented, teachers should be able to see the progress being made in the classroom, whether that is in reading or writing. Orton-Gillingham is a commonly known phonics intervention. It is used to support students who may need intervention because of their lack on phonics skills. Students may be pulled in small groups or one-on-one to receive this intervention. They learn letters, blends, and digraph sounds. They work on writing letters and making the sounds, and they eventually focus on sounding out words using the letter sounds they learned. This helps some students to understand how letter-sound relationships work and how to blend sounds together to form a word in a text. The reading or literacy specialist was someone who was often used to provide these interventions to students. Now, they may still provide the intervention, but they also work to support teachers in providing the intervention and providing teachers with interventions, tools, and strategies that are research-based. Students can have different reactions to interventions depending on the student and the intervention. Some students may not like receiving the special support as it excludes them from the class, while others may like being treated differently. Interventions also have different effects on students. Some students may progress with the Orton-Gillingham intervention because they are able to understand the letter-sound relationship and relate it to a text, while others may be whole word learners. Whole word learners need to see a whole word in order to understand what it means. Providing them with the Orton-Gillingham intervention can make them more confused. As a teacher, it is important to know your students and how they learn best and with what interventions. Progress monitoring is a type of informal assessment that teachers use to monitor a student's progress on a particular skill. I am a special education teacher, and progress monitoring is heavily important in my role. Since my students have IEP goals, I monitor their progress on each goal by assessing them routinely. I usually progress monitor my students every marking period in order to send marking period notes home to parents. This helps me to determine if students are mastering their goals, close to mastering their goals, or still need support to make progress. This also guides my reading and writing instruction because I can determine what students need the most support in and plan my lessons around that particular skill. An example of progress monitoring is assessing students on grade level sight words. In September, I would poll the student and determine how many sight words they can read independently. Then I will poll the student again in November and determine how many sight words they are able to read now. If a student is not making progress, I may want to include more direct instruction on sight words in my lesson. Progress monitoring can support both intervention and remediation. The reason is because progress monitoring helps teachers to determine what students are making progress in and what they need more support in. It can adjust instruction for teachers to reteach, and it could lead teachers to provide direct instruction for some students. The reading or literacy specialist can help the progress monitoring if a teacher needs the support. It is a great way for teachers to retrieve the data on that student without interrupting their instruction. Reading or literacy specialists can provide teachers with tools for progress monitoring and skills that can be focused on using those tools. Sometimes progress monitoring can feel tedious for some students, so it is important to make it engaging and spread out the dates that you choose to monitor the student. Students can also be involved in the data by looking at their progression over time. It can help students to see what they need to work on and how much they have improved.